And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Streggy, and here in the room I have Mo from. Why don't you tell me where you're from? Or
Well,
what's your channel?
like channel wise? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Drunken Master Studios and Rebel Gaming Club are the channels that I've been on prior to being on here with you guys. I think it's my first time on your channel, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I figured this will be like a kind of a co-op where it can kind of run on your channel and run on my channel, and we'll go from there. So,
Nice.
today, since you missed out earlier on coming on Killer Clowns, I do not mind going on about Killer Clowns again because it is my ultimate favorite film. So thank you for coming on with me about it. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, definitely. I'm stoked.
So the film is was filmed in 1988, and it was directed by the Chiodo brothers. And the Chiodo brothers production company is made up of three brothers. Stephen, I believe Stephen Chiodo, Charles Chiodo, and Edward Chiodo. And they went out and about and created this space invasion of a film. What was when was the first time that you watched this film? I know this isn't the first time for you.
Oh yeah, no. Like I think the first time that I watched it, because see, I used to always see the poster at the video store for a long time with like the clown spinning the globe or whatever. Yeah. And we would just kind of marvel at it, me and my little brother, for a long time before we ended up finally pulling the trigger and renting the movie. But I was probably in like fourth grade or something like that. And your classic sort of rent it, watch it at a sleepover sort of situation, and we just absolutely loved it, you know.
Okay, I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with this film because when I was 5 years old, it scared the shit out of me. I mean, there's a moment where a big clown kind of puppeteers one of the cops, and the other cop's name is Dave, and he comes across this cloud and blows his fucking nose off, you know, and it's just, and it just so happens his name is Dave, so it's like at that moment in time I had to shut it off, but years later I went back to it, and it is now like my ultimate all-time favorite film. Since I love to watch it over and over, I recently watched it for a podcast casting episode with a Croatian friend of mine. That was actually his first time actually watching it. So kudos to get someone interested in the film.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Shouts out to Boris. Glad you got on it, man. It's a must see for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like one of those ultimate sort of sleepover beer and popcorn type horror flicks, you know. It's just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. So so we have this is the storyline that IMDb gives us. Evidently aliens that come down to Earth, who clowns terrorize a town, and that's it.
That's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah.
They leave it at that. But we're going to go into it in a bit more detail. And I know that everyone has their different perspectives, and I just figured we'd talk about characters. So apparently there is a farmer by the name of Farmer Gene Green, and his puppy dog Pooh Bear end up seeing some kind of strange phenomena go past his farmhouse in Crescent Cove. At least the town of Crescent Cove. And of course, this farmer seems to think it's Halley's Comet. So what do you think of this farmer and this introduction here?
Well, that's always classic, man. I mean, it you know, just the farmer being the guy to spot it reminds me of a lot of like, you know, old alien encounter stories that you hear and stuff like that. Specifically, I think it's the Hopkinsville goblins. Like that, it always makes me think of that for some reason because farmers and UFOs and whatnot. And
Oh yeah,
they seem to see an awful lot of them. Maybe it's because they're like minding their crops, so they're outside more often than like your average folks.
true.
But yeah, farmer and his dog, can't go wrong with that.
So ultimately, this farmer and his dog end up going and investigating what they think is this comet. And lo and behold, when they get there to the spot, they find a carnival tent set up, which apparently is not what they thought. What do you think about that initial reaction? And what do you think about that first introduction to our spaceship?
Oh, I just absolutely love the whole carnival tent element of it. And I imagine that would just be totally fucking bizarre to find that out in the middle of nowhere, Like it's something coming down out of the sky. You could think it's a lot of different things, like a plane crash or a comet, or a UFO. You're not expecting to run up on a carnival tent, though. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, I don't know how I would react to that, if I found it personally.
I know I wouldn't. I would think it was strange if I found that in the middle of nowhere, where I thought it was something supposed to be something else. But anyways,
it's a strange place to cook meth, Like what else are you gonna think it is?
Well, this isn't your normal hunting camping tent. It's got colorful colors. It's got flags on it. What the hell? Anyways, somewhere nearby, apparently, is the local Lovers Lane in Crescent Cove, and our two main female and male in the story, which we find out are Mike Tobacco and Debbie Stone. And what do you think of these two? When they when they also see this supposed phenomena happen.
See, I like the whole idea, like the Lover's Lane kids. I think, unfortunately, that's from a more innocent time. You don't see as much Lover's Lane stuff going down anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of like a 50s kind of a thing. I mean, it's
definitely got a little bit of that flavor to it.
Dean era. James Dean.
I don't know. I dig them. I like. They're both likable characters. I think for the type of movie that it.
I think so. They're kind of typical for this kind of situation. Ultimately, so Mike and Debbie see this thing fly over their head, and of course they also have to investigate it. And they end up actually going a little further than our farmer friend when they find this carnival tent. And they end up in a room. Why don't you tell us about that room? They end up in an elevator.
See, I'm a little fuzzy on that at the moment.
See, what they do is they go down this long hallway and they go into an elevator and they go into the room with all the hanging upside down cotton candy stuff.
Oh, the cocoon.
Yeah.
I think that's so rad, them cocooning the people and cotton candy like that. It's not something I would immediately associate with clowns, but then at the same time, you do kind of associate it with the circus and things like that. And that's such a brilliant touch. Again, I don't know that I would have went inside the thing, like no matter what my speculation on what I'd be the hell out of there,
Yeah,
I'd be trying to find the local sheriff or something.
That's would have been going off bonkers, like at that point in time, like no can do, no pass, go.
Yeah. Even, dude, killer clowns from outer space isn't the immediate thing you'd suspect to find in there, but there's no good that can come out of entering a strange circus tent out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, I mean, you never know exactly what might transpire inside.
Exactly. It's you're either gonna run into like some meth cooking hillbillies, somebody hiding a still. I don't know, like it could be some crazy deliverance sex party. It's impossible to say what could be in that tent. Um,
Ah,
so yeah, I gotta applaud their stones for checking it out. I suppose
in any case, they end up seeing that evidently one of the clowns comes and drinks from one of these cocoons. And as they are trying to leave, they are discovered and they have to escape from the clutches of these supposedly killer clowns. What do you think of the weaponry that the clowns distribute as they are escaping from the tent?
Oh, it's awesome. That's it's just such a good touch. Um, I think that it's kind of strange too later on the people that see these clowns and don't immediately recognize them as being not normal clowns. You know what I mean? Because I've personally never seen some scary fucking clowns like that in real life unless they're intentionally scary. So
There have I. I mean,
no,
it's amazing what people are accepting of, at least in this small town. Uh, uh, well, that's what I feel like. I feel like Crescent Cove is like a small town where they haven't exactly
right.
experienced much outside of their norm, and they probably just expect things to
Yeah,
be
and
they are.
it's one look at those clowns and they're gonna try to eat you or something.
Or do something at least. I mean, you can't not expect them to at least pick you up and torture you or something. But ultimately, they as they're escaping, they actually
Right? Yeah, they
this is
take you
where we
out or
see
something.
our second dog in the film. um, Evidently, one of the
Uh-oh. Well, I'm not sure what happened. I think we lost David there. Little connectivity issue. Suppose it happens from time to time. Are you guys afraid of clowns? I've never found them creepy. I definitely would find these clowns creepy. Welcome back.
so right. But what did you think of Officer Mooney? His character.
Oh, he's pretty dope. I always enjoy a good crotchety local cop.
Well, he's kind of like your no bullshit shit dude who just won't believe anything,
Yeah,
and will
those
lock
damn kids
you up.
all hopped up on their goofballs or
Well,
whatever.
he'll lock you up just for sake of looking at him funny, you
Yeah,
know.
why not? He's definitely one of those cops that's on the verge of causing like a Rambo situation in that time.
I'm Officer Mooney. I'm not gonna believe shit. It's just. But anyways, so Debbie and Mike end up running into the young police officer Dave, and he at first doesn't believe them and their story, of course. So he starts to bring what is it, Mike in, and he takes Debbie home. And when Debbie goes home, that's a totally different story too. Um, so Dave takes Mike out to that Lover's Lane area, and what do they discover?
Is that when they go? Is that when the? See, I'm kind of confused. I'm fuzzy on it, man. Maybe it's just because I just watched Clerks for the thing, but
Well, they discovered
walk me through this, Dave. We can do it.
They discovered that the other vehicles that are there are actually, in fact, cobwebbed with.
Oh yeah, and that reminds me of like this episode of the X-Files too. Did you ever see that one where they're like those weird mites from the trees are cocooning everyone in their cars and shit?
Yeah. And I think there was also a Fringe episode that might have done something similar too.
That does sound familiar, actually.
But in any case, the whole entire vehicles are cobwebbed with these cotton candy webs.
Oh shit! It booted me right after the call. Get like just horrifying. The idea of it just freaks me out, right?
Oh, the cobwebs.
I don't know how I would react to finding that, but I definitely, again, would be the hell out of there. I think if I saw like cars all cobwebbed up like that, and as the cop, I would be trying to contact like higher authorities.
I would have been like, what has the Pink Panther been here? What the fuck? Or something like that, I mean, but moving on. So apparently, right shortly after this, that's when we start hearing, we'll get to the score later, but there's a really nice score that has the clowns coming in the town, and ultimately, like 5 or 6 of them start going into town. You start seeing them show up as pizza boys. What did you think about the whole town sequence? Because they kind of go through that rather well, not quickly, but they try to show that they're starting to take over. What do you think about those sequences? Well, what I'm going to talk about is the sequences that um, that
oh shit! Is the clown comet flying over right now? I don't know what's going on there.
I have no idea, but what do you think about that sequence of when they're going through the town?
Oh, I love that whole bit of the movie, and like I said, the way that the people react to the clowns, some of them just doesn't really quite make sense, but at the same time adds to the comedic element of the movie for sure. You got like that whole bar scene where those biker guys like are fucking with the clowns, and that one dude I think gets his head uppercutted off of him.
Yeah, in fact, that has something to do with the tiniest clown. The tiniest clown comes in on a little bitty tricycle, and they're like, "Hey, man," kind of a stoner, kind of a reaction to it. Is that your bike? And then he picks it down, like, "Oh, that's too bad." And then the tiny little clown gets a little pout on his face, and then he goes and somehow pulls out some little punching mitts and knocks his block off. And actually, he says something. hey man, what are you gonna do? Knock my block off? And then
Yeah, sure, so does. Right off. Doesn't it land in a garbage can or something?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just great.
anyway, going backwards a little a bit, Debbie goes home, and when she goes home, she actually, um, when they were escaping from the carnival, they were actually shot at by these guns of some sort, and these popcorn pieces had
I
gotten on
love
her
it.
clothes and her hair. So she ended up having to take a shower while this happened. And while she was in the shower, there was some Venus flytrap clown thing coming out of somewhere as she was coming out of the shower. Oh shit. And I have to say, I have to say that today's episode is having really a lot of fun. But
Boy,
I
certainly
guess the trap got you.
clown comic me out again. Yeah, the Venus flytrap thing you were saying.
Yeah, the Venus flytrap came out of um, the sidewall, or I think it was like a paper towel thing, um, or wastebasket, or laundry basket, or something like that. I
Oh,
think
the
it was
hamper, yeah.
a hamper. And that's when she evidently ran from the bathroom, and then of course the clowns were waiting for her. And she ended up in a big ass balloon, basically.
As one does,
Because
um,
that's what evidently happens to humans if they're capturing them at first. Although I don't know why they didn't cotton candy her butt, but like everyone else.
maybe they were trying to keep her, not all cotton candied up because they had other plans for her. It's hard to say what these clowns are up to.
True.
Um,
They were up to their own shenanigans.
right.
What was your favorite clown in the whole thing so far?
I used to be partial to the little dude, like the tiny guy, the one that punches the dude's head off. But as I get older, I like the big thick clown more and more. He just looks really scary to me. He looks like he could swallow a kid whole or something.
Um, well, in any case, I think I kind of like the guy that. Yeah, I think I like the thick guy too. And I think it all goes down to the part where he actually was arrested by Officer Mooney.
Oh yeah, boy Mooney.
It's like his hands disappear, and when he gets in the jail as cell, he's all playful.
Yeah, it's creepy as shit too. I think too partially why I like the design of that clown is that big throatiness of him. It reminds me a bit of like the goblins in you remember like the Hobbit animated movie?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's something about him that reminds me of that, and I just like that.
It's funny that you mentioned goblins because you mentioned something to me earlier about two of the Killer Clowns masks where they ended up regurgitating.
Oh yeah, and friggin' Ernest Scared Stupid. See, I was trying to look too. I didn't get a chance to fully research it, but I was wondering, like, did the Chiodo brothers do the effects for that also?
I think they did do some work on that. I mean, I can look it up real quickly here.
Yeah, it's like I feel like I remember hearing that they either did it or they were like kind of skimping on the effects, even though they're awesome and Ernest Scared Stupid.
Did the animation behind the large march scene in Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's definitely an interesting tidbit.
They also did a lot of the puppetry that's behind. Oh God. I know it was World Something Domination, or Team America World Police.
Oh, really? That's super cool, dude. I would have thought that they would have went more further with the horror stuff, but honestly, I can't think of anything other than this and like Ernest Scared Stupid of them doing, but I'm sure there has to be more.
So they were behind. They were a critter designer and supervisor on Critters 2, Critters 3, and Critters 4. They were the designer behind the Critters creature.
Yeah, they made the Krites. That's awesome, dude. I love those movies too. And there is something they favor that throaty design, like on that big clown, because the Krites kind of have that a little bit, where they have like an enlarged sort of bullfrog chin thing going on. I would almost wonder where their influence from that comes from. I wonder if it is like the goblins from The Hobbit or something,
Oh yeah, I agree. I think let's see. Looking at what they've been part of. Okay, King Cobra. So yeah, they did have something to do with the creature. Yeah, they were the creature effects designer in Ernest Scared Stupid. So
that's awesome. I think it's like cool coincidence too that movie has the Killer Klowns in it, and it has like an amazing fucking theme song. And this movie obviously is where the Killer Klowns came from, and it also has an amazing theme song. Because not every movie has like an amazing main theme.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm glad that this has an awesome theme song, and that theme song is by the Dickies, if I remember correctly.
It is. They have a whole album called Killer Klowns from Outer Space, I think.
So ultimately,
being a fan of it as you are, you might look into grabbing that on vinyl or something, just as like a display piece or something. That'd be rad.
Definitely planning on it. Now, I haven't actually gotten around to actually collecting any of the character pieces per se, but I know that those are like big time collector pieces if you actually find some of the clown pieces that are out there. I mean,
I would imagine that's.
I was looking at like $60-$80 ranges at the time, and I was like, I'm still in the hardcore collecting stage of movies. I haven't exactly branched out into the what is it, the collector of horror pieces, especially since
like memorabilia and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but, honestly, I find it hard because it's like you got to make room for the stuff, and I'd rather put more movies in the space that I would put like figures,
Here too. So ultimately, let's see. So what happens is, well, there are some other characters that I have not mentioned. The Terenzi brothers. The Terenzi brothers pull up in this badass ice cream vehicle with two chicks, and not only do they pull up in the ice cream vehicle, that vehicle has a clown on top of it, to probably signify a little bit of what this movie is all about.
You know what? It makes me wonder too if like, because Sweet Tooth and the Twisted Metal video games.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if that's like a nod to his like an evil clown, and his car is an ice cream truck with a clown on it.
and I was wondering in my earlier discussion yesterday day with Boris, um, that I wonder if Insane Clown Posse got their whole dark clown idea from this movie, because
Right.
their backstory is um they're killer clowns.
From a
The,
dark carnival or whatever. I would bet you that they have like and because if you remember, they did like their own little B movies and stuff. So
yes, they did.
I'm thinking there has to be a little element of that in there,
Exactly. So to me, there's just too much coincidence with Insane Clown Posse in this movie, to me at least, that they can't at least be somewhat connected.
Yeah, they gotta be. I can't understand how that wouldn't at least have some influence, even if it wasn't like in origins of ICP. I would think at some point they would have been like, oh shit, we do the Wicked Clowns thing, and there's like killer clowns, so
getting drunk and then getting high with that Fago, one day watching Killer Clowns face, hey, I could be that, so but ultimately,
it'd be awesome is like a Guar type band that is the Killer Clowns, that'd be sick. Some circus metal.
I could see that. So ultimately, we realize that they're collecting these bodies from this town, and turning them into these pink cotton candy cocoons. Of course, there is that the moment where everybody's calling into the police station, and they're gone. And police officer Mooney is like, killer clowns, hey? Well, nobody's gonna make me think that I'm going loony. No, sir. Nobody's gonna get me off the force.
That would be an elaborate prank to pull to try to drive old Mooney crazy.
Everybody's in on it, man.
The whole town's hopped up on goofballs or something.
I'm resigning today. But anyways, so ultimately, when Mike and Dave realize that Debbie is gone, they find out that she is in that balloon, and they follow it to where the carnival tent is, which is actually apparently at some carnival grounds now, not just out in the middle of the woods. The fuck? Now they have.
I mean, I suppose that makes sense, though. It might be easier to just have the people thinking that it's a carnival.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've already established that these townsfolk don't have any problem entering strange tents.
Yeah. So ultimately, they find themselves down at the carny ground, and apparently the clowns have a little bit of fun before they get there. They throw some pies at a security guard, which is kind of hilarious because he starts melting.
You got to do that,
And then ultimately,
isn't there a bit where they hit someone with a seltzer bottle too?
Yeah, they did.
I don't remember if that.
They did. But there was one thing I forgot to mention in the very beginning. This must have actually been during a time when you couldn't advertise name brand beer things, because in the very beginning, if you notice, a kid is actually carrying a thing of beer and it just says beer on it.
Oh yeah. I've always wanted to get those slips because you see that movie sometimes. I always want one of those slips to put like on my beer can. Just says
like,
beer.
If you want Schlitz, or you want Budweiser, you can't advertise Budweiser. There must have been something in the advertising shit at the time that you couldn't advertise beer or something like that at that point in time.
Yeah, it's weird because you'd think they'd want the opposite, like they'd want their beer in the movie.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, especially in this day, well, there was a rule for a time that you actually couldn't advertise unless getting a certain, unless the certain parties were getting some money to do that.
okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Um,
I wonder too if maybe like, because what is Killer Clowns rated R? I don't think it is.
I don't think. Let's see. Let me see if. Okay, going to.
Because it might have something to do with the rating process too.
It's actually PG-13, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like it could very well be something to do with that too. Like if you advertise beer in it, it could affect the rating or something. Who knows how it was back in those days?
It could have. It could have very well done that. I just always find it funny when you can't advertise, especially since in Iron Man they actually full on advertise Snap-on tools.
Right. Oh man. You see, now it just makes me wish that in the movie there was somebody with like a mock-up Marlboro pack that just said cigarettes on it.
Well,
That should be great.
not to mention it still says KKK on the Marlboro packs. So,
right.
But not particular. But in any case, so ultimately, they end up all at this carnage grounds, and of course, I love how they bring in the tiny little clown car where all of them just pile out of this tiny car. I mean,
that's amazing.
I mean, come on, you can imagine how all them big ass suckers actually fit in that car, and you realize.
See, I always like to imagine it's like really like motorhome sized on the inside. Like I don't know if you've seen like Fantastic Beasts or whatever, that Harry Potter movie where like inside his bag is this whole room.
Yeah.
You know? So maybe it's like some weird clown magic where inside of there it's actually like a Winnebago, you know?
True. Or just like that little bank where there's that little sack in the middle, and it looks like there's nothing there, but you stick the coins in and the space.
Yeah. Some weird spatial shit.
But anyways, moving on to okay, so there is a larger clown that works here that evidently is like in charge of all these other clowns. And what's funny is that he is a marionetted clownzilla. That's basically what the name of the creature is. It's actually called Clownzilla, which they ultimately go up against. What do you think about that end creature?
Oh, it's rad, dude. I mean, like anytime that there's something revealed like that in a movie, it's pretty sick. I can't help but think of like, what is it, Dead Alive?
Okay.
You know, with the rat zombies and stuff, and there's like the big grandma at the end. I'm a sucker for like a large stupid creature, you know. And I think that there's a disturbing lack of them in B movies. You know, someone needs to fix that.
Well, I think that this was a unique film entirely because it's got your horror, it's got your science fiction, it's got your comedy. I mean, just like there's a moment where a clown is beckoning a little girl from the cafe, and what does he have behind his back? a big ass giant mallet.
Isn't it like one of those big lollipops? Oh, mallet.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know why I thought
yeah.
lollipop. Right?
it
I was
no,
just looking
it
at a
was a
meme earlier though, where this dude like bashes someone with a friggin' lollipop. I mean, that's sinister as shit though. The mallet. I
that
think
would be
that
like,
Killer. Go ahead.
that would be like if the Munchkins went wild.
Yeah.
Suddenly, suddenly, if the Munchkins went full on massacre.
How has no one done that? Like a Wizard of Oz movie that's all fucked up with the Munchkins like massacring people and stuff. That would be amazing.
That would be. I mean, the Munchkins are instead rapists or some shit.
Yeah. Just gang raping people in Oz, chasing them down the yellow brick road.
The Scarecrow running
rip that scarecrow to shreds and shit.
Well, the
flying around on those monkeys.
Well, the flying monkeys are drugged up.
All right. I don't know, man. I think Killer Klowns hits all the marks. You know, it's got all the classic sort of clown. I don't know if you call them like stereotypes. Tropes might be the better word. You know,
tropes. Yeah,
it hits all those marks. You know, it's got the comedy. It's got the cool effects. It's got the horror, like you said. You know, there's genuinely something sinister about it. It's got that good self-aware, like B-movie cheese, where it's, you know, kind of intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never really been comfortable with just people that try to relegate this to the trash movie pile, because it's not. It's done it on purpose, you know.
Well, yeah.
It's not like that stuff was accidental because nobody could act. They did. I'm fairly certain those dudes gave very specific directions for them to act that way, you know.
Some people really are afraid of clowns too. I mean, in general.
That's one thing that I was going to bring up, because I used to date this girl, dude, and she was like fine coming to my house and watching all these fucked up horror movies that I have, but Killer Klowns was one that she flat refused to watch with me. and we got in a fight that ended up so fierce one day. It wasn't really a fight. She just got super pissed off at me because I kept insisting that we watch it, and I kept trying to sneak it in. Like I would put it in and we'd get through like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and she'd be like, "This is that damn clown movie, isn't it?" You know, I tried. It just didn't work out. She ended up taking off all pissed off at me.
Oh man, I swear, I've had some fun at trying to scare the shit out of some people myself. But in any case, I know that there's also one other scene that I wanted to mention. I mentioned it in several other discussions, but the scene where one of the clowns is shadow puppeting stuff on the walls, and first he does an elephant.
Beautiful.
Then he does what is it? The Washington in the Delaware, and ultimately ends up being a T-Rex.
Yeah. Doesn't he do a bunny too? Or am I tripping?
Bunny first. He does a cute little bunny just to get, and it's at a bus stop, I believe.
Right. And then at the end, isn't it like something he bites the fucking head off of that person or whatever?
Actually, he takes the Tyrannosaurus Rex that he creates, and I swear the T-Rex thing on the wall, it has like red eyes, and it actually swallows all of them, and the shadow goes right back into his bag, and then he jumps up and away. So,
and that's not even something that I would associate with clowns, but it just works, you know. Yeah. Like I would imagine shadow puppets is something silly that a clown would do, even though it's not something that you sort of classically think of when you think of clowns. It just works, you know.
Well, it's sleight of hand, and that's something that carnies are a carnival person, someone who is willing to sell you his soul, basically. I
bet you we could have bought some sweet souls at old school carnivals. That's something that you don't see that anymore. Circus comes to town.
Anyways, moving on to well, let's see. What did you think about the Terenzi brothers actually surviving?
I thought it was cool. I thought it was it's different to what you typically see in horror films. Usually it's just sort of your token survivor chick, and those guys definitely come across as sort of the types of dudes that would get killed in a horror movie at first, right?
Right. But
so it's neat to see them like leave them, in good condition, right?
Oh yeah. So
when you're introduced to them, you kind of almost think like, oh, these guys are dead immediately,
Well, they seem like total idiots at first, But,
right, they're that comedic relief sort of bumbling dudes that, of course, they're gonna get offed, right? No,
Tweedledum Tweedledee. Okay, let's see what they do. But ultimately, let's see. Let us. I think that's all the time we have for today, folks. Unless you have something more that you want to add.
I think that Killer Klowns is a movie that a lot of people would probably write off as just being a cheesy sort of popcorn flick from the 80s, and that is what it is, but it definitely should be enjoyed by more people. I think it's a shame that it never got a sequel, but at the same time, I kind of like that it's just a singular, standalone little gem,
Well, there has been something greenlit in the future, at least according to IMDb. Something about
that's intriguing.
I've heard it said that it's going to be like a 6-part series, possibly, or maybe it might actually be an actual sequel. But I've heard it more the series than anything else.
Right, and that would be super cool. They just did that Critters one too, which, as you mentioned, is a Chiodo's brother thing. So. Yeah, that would be really cool to see a Killer Klowns series. It's definitely something they could go back to the well for. And we're seeing more of that, where a lot of these cult classic, like Slime City Massacre got a friggin' sequel. Same thing with Nukem High. They got like modern installments. So it would be really neat to see that with Killer Klowns for sure.
Alrighty. Well, in any case, thank you, everyone, for listening to our ramblings. I don't miss an opportunity to go on about this movie, and I know we've got another movie coming up right after.
We do, baby. Clerks, right there.
In any case,
down.
Definitely keep a lookout for that discussion. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. This will be going up all over the place, so check it out.
For sure. I apologize for the connectivity issues. Those damn clown comments will get you.
Hey,
cheers. Thanks for watching.
The clowns were trying to invade you.
Yeah, I ain't getting in that cotton candy cocoon. Fuck that.
Just watch out for the popcorn.
Oh, God. Weirdly, I have a whole bag of popcorn jelly beans right here.
On that note, I'm going to leave you to that, and then I'll see you in the next window.
Better keep those away from the fucking laundry hamper.
Well, we'll see if you survive to the next into the next link. So I'll see you in a moment, man.